Warning, the views and opinions expressed in this presentation are those of the producer and those appearing in the show and do not necessarily represent the views of DerryCam, the town of Derry, or any of its staff or affiliates. Hi, I'm Anthony Henry. Welcome to America's Ass. We're on episode 53. And before I start, I'd just like to open the show by saying that I was going to save this till the end, but I'll say it now because the end's going to be dedicated to mostly presidential election talk, because this is the last show before the election. I want to reveal to the audience that this show has been nominated by the Alliance or Association for Community Media for Best Student Programming. So I'm honestly very proud that this show that me and my friends just started one day was able to get that kind of recognition. DerryCam, I believe, got, don't quote me on it, but something along the lines of like Best Studio within this budget range. I don't know the exact title, but DerryCam's the best. I love this place. They have let me do whatever I want, basically, and I couldn't ask to do my show in a better place. So we're going to be doing those awards in December. We'll be on break with the show then. So when we come back in February, we will, reveal how that went. But we got a few more weeks of shows. And anyway, I'm here with Nick Sands. Thank you for coming on. Please introduce yourself.
Hey, dude. Thanks for having me. So my name is Nick Sands, and I don't really know what to say. I'm like the least impressive person you've had on this podcast so far. I make internet videos for a living, and they're mostly very bad and very dumb.
Well, you're known around town as kind of like, a personality. You mostly, I minced my words there. You mostly touch on, local issues. And I wanted to start by an issue in Manchester with the 88 Cafe.
88 Coffee.
88 Coffee. So I'll let you start with that. You know more about me.
So I know more about you. So first off, I want to say that if I mess up here, I did not have any time to prepare. Anthony called me a half hour ago, and I said, Anthony, I would do anything for you. And so I jumped right in my car and got down here. And so if I mess up, this is all on Anthony. 88 Coffee is a locally owned coffee shop in Manchester, New Hampshire. And they are having their property taken from them through eminent domain. The circumstances around it were a little bit, they weren't good. They're moving in the right direction, but, basically they're putting in a giant poop tunnel that'll take all of the, right now in Manchester, all right, I'm going to go back. When it rains real heavy in Manchester, the water flows underground, and right now the overflow and the poop tunnel are connected. And then all of that overflows into the Merrimack River when it rains too heavy and overwhelms the system. The system was built like 100 years ago, so obviously it wasn't built for the situation that they're running into now. All of it flows together, and then it flows into the Merrimack. Down in the river, the Merrimack is the main watering source for like 600,000. It's either 60,000 or 600,000 people. I can't remember which one, but it's a lot of people to be drinking poop water. And so they need to put in this tunnel. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So they for some reason, they need the lot that 88 Coffee sits on. 88 Coffee, the building has been owned by that family since, I believe, 99. Wait, no. Yeah, 99. So it's been owned since 99 by the same family. And they needed to take it, but originally they weren't giving, they were lowballing them, and they weren't basically compensating them for the business itself. It was just the land that it sits on. Eminent domain is terrible enough when it happens to like a family, but at least they're being compensated for the worth of the land that their house would sit on. In a business, there's all of the other stuff to take into account, right? So like you have operating costs, time to shut down, moving costs, finding a new building, which They're not offering enough to even buy a new building. And since they own the building outright, that now adds overhead to a business. And so it was just a real disaster. Since then, negotiations have moved forward, and I also should say I don't speak for them. I'm not like, this is just something that I recently did a story on. But yeah, so negotiations have moved forward, and everything's going. I mean, it seems as though it's moving in the right direction. There was a lot of pressure from the public, and hopefully it's done fairly and adequately, and that's all that really anyone's asking for. I mean, the actual system needs to go in. You can't have people drinking poop water, you know. It's not good for anybody. And so it needs to happen, but it needs to be happen in a way that's fair to the people involved.
Yeah, I've been following the story a little, and I saw your video touching on it, and I think the situation with the public contacting the mayor and the alderman so much, I thought that was really interesting how they responded, especially.
Yeah, I mean, they seem open to it. You know, I mean, I understand in politics and in anything, whenever you're working with a large group of people, you're always going to have people who are mad. You're always going to have people that are happy with you. They're going to have people who don't care. You're going to have, you know, there's a million different opinions and sides to take on something. And a lot of times in politics, it's just about being the loudest and making sure that your perspective is being viewed and taken into account. And I think that's really all that they did was they just made it so that, you know, this story that maybe I don't think it was malicious that the city wasn't paying them. I think it was just they handed off. You know, the city hires a firm to handle all this stuff. They hired the people. They forgot about it. They didn't pay attention to it. It's the firm's job to get the best deal possible. And then, you know, it's up to the homeowner in this case, the business owner to fight for. Am I messing up? Is that why you're smiling like that?
Nope.
Okay. I think it's up to the the business owner in this case to make sure that they get a fair shake.
Yeah, I agree. And some other stories that you've been doing recently have been on other local businesses. So I think it's really good that you're, you know, giving a lot of small businesses in the area that kind of attention. Like there was Local Madness in the mall. You did a story on them.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing about New Hampshire is I've lived here my whole life, and when you are a kid, when you're much younger than I am today, you don't realize how really incredible this state is. And now that I'm older and I've really gotten to go other places and do other things, and I realize how special New Hampshire is, and I really want to highlight that and show people what we have here and how, I think it's great. I really think New Hampshire is primed to be a major cultural hub over the next, 20, 30 years. And I hope that I can be someone who can bring attention to that.
Yeah, and we were talking about your story in the hall. You basically went all in on your videography career, which I think's it's really interesting. And I wanted to touch on that. So what's that been like?
Terrifying and difficult, but worth it. So basically, when I got out of high school, I went directly into the trades. I went into auto body with working for my family business. I learned how to do auto body, and I worked on big trucks, and it was great. It was what I always wanted to do. It was my dream job. And then after about 12, 13 years, I realized maybe it wasn't the dream job that I wanted it to be for the rest of my life. And so I started thinking about what I did want to do for the rest of my life. And in high school, I went to MST. Mr. Schillingberg was my teacher, and we had a little studio like this. We did shows, we did fun stuff, and that was something that I always wanted to do. But I already wasn't good at school. I was already getting bad grades and not doing well in school. And so from a practical standpoint, it didn't seem like it made sense for me to also, take a leap into doing something like that. It was a very practical, very pragmatic decision to move into auto body and do that. And yeah, I don't even know where I'm going with this. I lost my train of thought there, but
completely okay.
2 years ago, my daughter was born, and I was looking at the numbers, and the cost of daycare is absolutely out of control right now. along with like massive waiting lists and being able to even get your kid into a daycare. And so when I ran the numbers, it was like, okay, I only have to make this much money a month to like sort of make up for what I would have to spend in childcare. And it wasn't that much. And so I said, well, I had already been dabbling in it part-time for a couple of years. And I just said, throw caution to the wind and let's take this jump. And then, worst case scenario, I fail and I got to go get a real job. But in the meantime, I can take care of my daughter full-time, stay home, hang out, and make videos.
Yeah, and you're around. People know you. Another thing, you ran for town council in 2022.
Yes, I did,
What was
and
that?
lost. I lost for town council.
You lost to one of our former guests, Brian Chiricello.
Great guy.
But what was that campaign like for you? You had obviously never done anything like that before. So.
No, I had never run for political office before, and it was fun. It's definitely something. Definitely something I would potentially do again. I don't know. It was at the time I had helped to get a skate park built in Derry, and the position came up. Brian was running. I don't believe there was anyone else running against him in the ward. So I said, might as well again throw caution to the wind. Just kind of came up with the idea and did it, and it didn't work out. I lost by 12 votes, but I felt pretty good about that. And yeah, it was fun. I made friends with Brian. I made a lot of friends through it. I met a lot of people, talked to a lot of those people today, and it's good. I like talking to people. So
I've found in your stories basically how everyone gets into politics. They just run. Like they just take the leap. That's obviously I haven't run for anything, but that's how I got involved. I just started paying attention, started going to stuff.
The way that I've lived my life pretty much for my entire life is that like if I have an idea, I'm just gonna start, and then it doesn't. I think a lot of people get caught up on this like I don't have the answer to every question. I don't have, it's not even usually. I don't even find that it's usually fear based. It's more a feeling that they're not prepared, and you have that imposter syndrome. But everybody's just a normal guy until they do something, right? And so for me, in my whole life, I've always just kind of said, let's just do it, figure it out, and like, what's the worst that's going to happen? You lose. I'm still alive. I'm still kicking.
Yep.
And I've almost always found that if you do stuff and you go out and you try something, that you're always going to come away in a good way. Like I lost that election. I made a lot of friends. I probably wouldn't have met you if it wasn't for that election. I wouldn't have met a lot of the people that I know. And that running for that office gave me a lot of understanding for how local politics works and how the major differences. Because, for most people, like the normal average person who's got, 2 kids and a job, they're working 60 hours a week and they're trying to make ends meet and they're doing all this stuff, like they don't have time to keep up with politics. Like to them, politics is just politics in general. And I think it really gave me an understanding of like, this is local politics, like this is state politics, this is federal politics. And this is sort of like how they are sort of enshrined together and how they work together and how they also are separate. And I thought it was interesting.
So keeping on the local politics topic, we have an interesting situation in the school district right now. At the next meeting, we're going to get a new board member. We have the new Warren article for $25 million. You're there off and on. I've seen you at a few meetings. What do you think? What do you think's going to happen? What do you think of what they're doing? All that.
To me, the question of our schools in Derry is no longer. It's not about finding the best solution, or it's not. It's what needs to happen is something, anything at this point. We've been arguing about. I feel like they've been arguing about it forever. I moved here, 10 years ago. And then we've been arguing about, I've been hearing the same argument about school buildings for the last at least 10 years. It's time to just make a decision and then go with it. Again, that's just how I've lived my life, so maybe I'm a little biased, but you can only think so much, you can only plan so much. When you're bringing in new people constantly with new ideas and new things, like, it just feels like we're at a point where we just need to do something. Whatever decision that is. I think both decisions work. Well, both decisions as far as like getting a new school building, repairing the old ones, both decisions will work. I think that we just, at this point, we need to just pick something and go forward with it.
The new school's out, from what I understand.
Is it?
I think they kind of saw the writing on the wall with what happened at the last election, and I don't believe they will consider it again for the foreseeable future. And right now, they are focusing on renovations. There was back and forth between how much money they wanted to put in. Some of them were saying as much as 40 at one point, and they realized they would never get 40. Went down to 35 and then 30. Some of the other members wanted 10 or 15 and 20. And they have settled at 25 now. That's what will be on the ballot in March, along with the teacher's contract, the budget, and now 4 members because we had a resignation a few weeks ago.
Yeah. No, I mean, I tell you what, I ran for town council. I would never run for school board. It's terrifying. And frankly, every single member of that board who's willing to take on that role and responsibility is like, give them some grace, give them some space, like let them do what they need to do. It's a lot of hard decisions that they need to make, and I don't envy them that position. It doesn't seem like a fun one.
It is not. I've sat at almost every meeting for the past over a year now.
Yeah.
It's frankly it's toxic.
Yeah.
They don't get along, as you can tell by watching one meeting. Literally pick a random meeting, watch it, and they fight like cats and dogs, and it's almost disturbing how much they fight. We've had members had to leave for a few minutes because they get too worked up on either side.
Right. I mean, I can understand. It's a very serious thing. I mean, education is expensive. It's also, I mean, it takes you 7 seconds talking to a dumb person to realize how important education is. If we can have less dumb people in society, then like overall we're better, you know? And so I definitely think it's a mix. Yeah, we need to, but again, we just need to make a decision. We're running teacher contracts. We're not paying equivalent to surrounding areas as far as teacher contracts are concerned. We're constantly down bodies in the classroom. It's not a good position to be in. I know that I specifically moved to Derry because me and my wife were planning a family and we wanted the best possible schooling, and Derry had a great school system. Looking at it today, the school system isn't as good as it could be.
It no longer holds the prestige it had a few years ago.
Exactly.
And that same reason is why my parents moved here.
Yeah.
Probably similar reasons for most of my friends at Pinkerton.
There's black mold in some of our schools. A couple of years ago, we got a letter from one of the schools saying that we had lead in their water. I mean, like, that's what I mean. It's like, we can't keep arguing like there's lead in the water. There's black mold in the ceiling. Like, we need to do something. Something needs to happen. And that's going to cost money. And the longer that you push it off, the more money it's going to cost. And the more money it's going to cost. If they had dealt with this kind of thing 10 years ago and made a decision, picked a direction to go in, and we could all work together, then we wouldn't be in the position we're in. It probably would have been a lot cheaper.
Yeah, and it's become more polarizing in Derry. And speaking of that, we have something pretty big happening next week, as I mentioned earlier. Yeah, you know what's coming. The election is a week from yesterday. It's in 6 days. And first thing I thought of when I realized how close it was I don't know if anyone's ever seen the movie Donnie Darko. Have you?
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole movie's set in the backdrop of the 1988 election.
Yeah.
And spoiler alert, it's when they predict the world will end.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking with this election.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think the world will end.
No, I'm joking with it, but
no, I know.
It's going to be a nightmare no matter who wins, honestly. The uproar that will happen if Kamala wins, and I'm a big Trump guy, but I know that if he wins, something's going to happen. I don't know what. Obviously, I don't think something like January 6th will happen again, on no matter who wins, but there's going to be some big thing that happens, I think.
I mean, I think, define big thing. I mean, we've lived through, since 2001, we've lived through countless big things. Big things have been happening.
I'm not sure how to define it at this point.
I mean, I think we're moving in a direction. Things are definitely changing, and we're going to have to deal with that as they come. But I think that the only way to do that is to deal with it together. I think that's one of the big problems we have is, you can't even have a conversation most of the time anymore. At least, well, so that's not exactly true, actually. I think that in person, when we're talking face to face, people are very kind and very nice. I've never been screamed at for any political opinion in person. Now, I'm sure state reps and other people would argue differently, but as a normal, just everyday person, I've never had anyone raise their voice to me over a political opinion. We may argue, we may disagree, but at the end of the day, we go about our day and we go about our life and we respect each other. And I think online sort of creates this idea, and I say this as someone who makes their living online, it creates a separation and it sort of dehumanizes us. And a lot of times I don't think that people are doing it for any, I think they just need some kind of outlet and they can find that online. And sometimes when you're typing to another digital persona, it's easy to get carried away and get out of control. But, I think if we all can all remember we're humans, then we could all be doing better.
Yeah, I really think that social media has just... It's part of what has divided us, I think.
Well, I think so. Social media is really just a tool, right? So, that's like blaming the hammer for knocking down the Berlin Wall. It's not the hammer that did it; it's the person holding the hammer. Social media is really a mirror, and the algorithm is set up in such a way to show you the things that you engage with the most. And so, if what social media sees is that you engage most with things that make you angry, it will feed you things that make you angry because its job is to hold your attention for as long as possible. If it finds that puppy pictures are the things that hold your attention for as long as possible, it's going to feed you puppy pictures all day, and you'll probably be a much happier person. I don't know how you'll be handling it, if you'll see as much news or you'll be up to date on current affairs. But the algorithm, social media, just like anything else, is a tool.
It's one of the most powerful tools in the world.
It is the most powerful communication device ever devised.
Yeah, and I think people are informed. I think there's an illusion of being informed because you're getting informed by headlines. You're not actually seeing the story.
Right.
I think this generation being more informed is an illusion. It reminds me of George Carlin, The Illusion of Choice.
Well, I think when you look at something like headline, like clickbait, it's one of those things that, you can take any story and make it look however you want with a crazy title, right? So 88 Coffee could be local owners refuse to stop forcing people to drink poop water, right? Or it could be eminent domain claim threatens to take local coffee shop from the people of Manchester. And so, words are so powerful. Words are really the most powerful things we have. Like, you talk about communication, you talk about social media, words, being able to express yourself, talking, those are really the most powerful tools we have. And so I think being careful and understanding with your words can actually, change the world, which is what we see with clickbait titles. I mean, it's changed the world for the worse, maybe, but all it takes is a few words and well thought out sentences to change perspective and change everything.
And I got one more thing to ask you before we end here, and it's going to be kind of a big question.
Okay.
So,
my hair is natural. I don't do anything.
It's not that. So, as I said, the election's next week, and this is the last show before the election. So what do you have to say to everyone watching right before they vote?
I would just say just get out and vote. Regardless of which side you're voting for, whether or not it doesn't really matter. I think the most important thing moving forward is that we have a clear and concise consensus on what's happening. And we have a good understanding and we have a good idea of what everybody wants, not just what, a small group of people want. And so more than anything, I wouldn't want to tell anyone to vote for anybody or change anybody's opinion on anything. I would just say, take the day, go out and vote and do that. And then, we can all deal with the repercussions of that after it comes to pass.
Yeah, I agree. It's what I was going to say as well. Vote first. I may have copied you a little, but you need to vote. I've been saying it every episode, and for anyone that lives in Derry, you can actually vote in person early on Sundays. This Sunday is going to be the last Sunday you can do it.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can vote from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m.
Oh, cool.
At Town Hall. So if you want to vote early and you live in Derry, you can do that this Sunday. And yeah, as I said, get out and vote. It's way too important to be on the sidelines. I know they say that every year, but still, it applies.
I mean, again, you can be on both sides and say that though, right? So like, it's not. I wouldn't even say it's so much that it's too important to be on the sidelines, so much as it's we need a direction and we need everybody's input, and it's not. I don't think. I mean, maybe you would or not, but I don't think you would want, your candidate to win if it hurt the majority of people, right? Vice versa. Like what we need is an understanding of where we want to go. And that's what voting does, is it gives everybody in charge an idea of like, okay, this is the direction we want to move in. And so if you're only getting 10% of the people to come out, 20%, 30% of the people that come out and vote, then they don't have that clear understanding. If you get 100% or 90% or 80% of the people to get out and vote, then you can have an understanding of where we actually want to go as a group of people. And then the more you get closer to that 100% people voting, the less room there is for people to say, this isn't how we want to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's like, agree with me, disagree with me, it doesn't matter. I'm willing to move in whatever direction the group wants to go, and I just need an understanding of where that is going.
Yeah, we need a consensus, as we were saying earlier, with what's happening in Derry. So we will return after next week. Do you have anything else you'd like to say before we end?
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on.
For coming on here and embarrassing myself. This is really good water, so if you are someone who gets the opportunity, I would say just the water is worth coming on the show.
Well, thank you for coming on. It's been a great discussion, and I'm
Is
very.
This just tap?
I believe it's Monadnock.
Monadnock, interesting.
So, I was very happy you were the last show before the election, because as I said, you're not real. You've run for a local office before, but you're not really a political figure. We're not getting someone spouting dogma. We're getting a real person that has real perspectives right before a really big election that will likely decide the fate of America, no matter what side you're on. So,
well, I appreciate that. I don't know if I was the best choice, but it was fun.
Thank you for coming on, and we'll see you guys next week. I'm Anthony Henry. This has been America's Ass. Thank you for next week.
Okay.
I'm Anthony Henry. This has been America's Ass. Thank you for watching.
Bye.